Hello there, Wololo Warriors! In this video I want to show you exactly how attack and armor work in Age of Empires 2. It's a lot more complex than many people may actually realise. You probably note that some units may have an attack bonus against other units, such as Halberdier versus Cavalry, but how exactly does this bonus work and how is it actually all calculated? Let's take a look at the Mangudai, a fairly simple unit with 6 attack and no armor. Or so you may think. The Mangudai is actually one of the more complex units when it comes to attack and armor. In reality, it has 5 attacks and 6 armors, most of which the player will never see or even be aware of. It's these hidden attacks and hidden armors that allow the Mangudai to do bonus damage against certain units, or even be vulnerable against certain types of attack. There are 2 types of base attack in Age of Empires 2, which you're probably all very much aware of: Pierce attack and melee attack. Most units will only do one of these types of damage. The Halberdier, of course, will do melee damage, and the Mangudai will do pierce damage. Typically speaking, melee units do melee damage, and ranged units do pierce damage. Though there are some exceptions to this rule, such as the fire ship, which actually does both. In order for these attacks to do any damage to a unit, each unit must have both a melee armor and a pierce armor. This is why every unit in Age of Empires 2 has a melee and pierce armor shown on the UI, and these values are the most commonly used. The Mangudai has 0 pierce armor, 0 melee armor, and 6 attack, which is a pierce attack. So what about the other attacks and armors? It also has cavalry armor, archer armor, cavalry archer armor, and unique unit armor. These armors allow the unit holding them to be able to take damage from an attack of that type. If the Mangudai didn't have cavalry armor, it wouldn't actually take any bonus damage against units that have an attack bonus versus cavalry, such as the Halberdier. These armors are easier to view as attributes because they actually define what a unit is, and they're also usually set to 0 as well, meaning that the unit offers no resistance to the attacks of the corresponding type. Let's do a hypothetical 1v1 battle between the Mangudai and the Halberdier. The Mangudai has 6 attack and no armor, and the Halberdier also has 6 attack and no armor. Of course, we know that when the Halberdier attacks the Mangudai, it doesn't just do 6 damage, so let's look at what actually happens behind the scenes in this case. The Mangudai will hit the Halberdier for 6 pierce damage. As the Halberdier has no pierce armor, all 6 damage will be inflicted. But the Mangudai also has a special hidden attack, which is 1 bonus damage versus Spearman. As the Halberdier has a Spearman armor, or a Spearman attribute, because, well, it is a Spearman, this means that the Mangudai will do 1 additional damage, meaning it will do a total of 7 damage per arrow. The Halberdier will hit the Mangudai for 6 melee damage. Of course, all 6 will be inflicted because the Mangudai has no melee armor. But the Halberdier also has a hidden attack bonus of 32 against cavalry. As the Mangudai has a cavalry armor of 0, it will also take all of this bonus damage, meaning that the Halberdier will do 38 damage per attack. As you can see then, this is exactly how hidden bonus damage works, and it allows units to have many different strengths and weaknesses that aren't necessarily shown to the player. In many games, bonus damage is often calculated as a multiplier. For example, a Halberdier might have 2 times the attack against cavalry units. However, this is not actually how it works. Bonus damage is a fixed value that is separate to the shown attack value of a unit. A Halberdier, as we know, does the 6 melee damage, and it does 36 cavalry bonus damage. And these values are completely separate. In our previous example, if you were to research forging to give the Halberdier an extra 1 attack, this would make it do a total of 39 damage against the Mangudai. This makes counter units really strong in Age of Empires 2, because even without blacksmith upgrades, they still do a really large fixed amount of bonus damage against the units that they counter. A really interesting unit is the Cataphract. It's one of the few units that have an armor other than melee and pierce that is higher than 0. You may know that Cataphracts take reduced damage from both the Camel and Spearman line, and this is because Cataphracts actually have hidden cavalry armor of 12. In-game, they are shown to have 2 melee armor and 1 pierce armor, But let's simulate another battle, this time between a cataphract and a halberdier. The cataphract will hit the halberdier for 9 base melee damage and a bonus 9 infantry damage, totaling 18 damage per attack against the halberdier, which has both melee and infantry armor of 0. The halberdier will hit the cataphract for 6 base melee damage, but it only does 4 damage overall because the cataphract has 2 melee armor. The halberdier also does 32 bonus cavalry damage, but this is also negated thanks to the cataphract's hidden cavalry armor of 12, meaning that only 20 of the 32 damage will go through, leaving the halberdier with 24 damage per attack. The cavalry armor that the cataphract has also helps it to resist camels, which as we know also have an attack bonus against cavalry too. Nearly every unit in the game has multiple hidden armors and attacks which interact behind the scenes to give units their special attack bonuses or resistances. The complexity of Age of Empires 2 is actually quite staggering once you begin to see each unit in detail. In future videos, I'd really like to look at specific units, such as the Chuko Nu, to explain how they work so differently from other units in the game. But in order to really understand these more complex units, we first have to have an understanding of how attacking and how armor really works in Age of Empires 2. Hopefully you learned something here anyway, and if you have any questions, then feel free to leave a comment and I'll do my best to answer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.